The paper plate was already sagging under the weight of Eli's mashed potatoes when Judith set it down on the kitchen counter instead of the table. He was 6. He'd lost his mother 11 weeks earlier. Judith looked past him, straight at me, and said, "He's not really family, is he?" I didn't answer her. I picked up my own plate, walked into the kitchen, and stood next to Eli at the counter while the dining room went on without us, forks scraping, someone's laugh too loud, one of the real grandkids asking for more rolls. When we finished, I cleared both plates myself, rinsed them, set them in the rack. My hands didn't shake. I remember thinking, very clearly, that I was going to remember this counter. Not the words for it yet. Just the counter, the number of steps back to that table, and every name sitting at it. 2 months before that dinner, I'd stood at a different counter, 3rd floor of the Summit County Courthouse, waiting on an emergency guardianship order so I could legally take Eli home from the hospital. The clerk made me repeat Renata's date of death twice for the form. Eli's backpack sat on the bench beside me the whole time, still packed for a pumpkin farm field trip that was never going to happen now, permission slip still clipped to the front pocket. I signed 4 copies. Judith was listed as notified party on all 4. She never came to the hearing. The Hallorans wanted Renata's funeral at their church, in their town, with their pastor giving the eulogy. I said Renata hadn't set foot in that church since her wedding and asked for something closer to where she'd actually lived. Walter didn't say a word the whole call. Judith did. "You're not burying my son's choice of wife on your terms." Like Renata was still married in, still theirs to decide about. I picked the second funeral home on the list and didn't fight her on the rest. I just filed it away, the way you file away everything you're too tired to argue about yet. I worked days at a title insurance office and took night classes at the community college, then transferred the credits to Kent State and finished my degree 3 years after that. Eli did his homework at the same kitchen table every night because we only had the one table. He got good at multiplication before I got good at torts. Some nights I fell asleep still holding a highlighter. The LSAT was in October, the year Eli turned 11. I studied logic games in the school parking lot during his soccer practice, engine running for the heat, notebook balanced on the wheel. He asked me once from the back seat why I wanted to be a lawyer. I told him the truth, so nobody can leave you standing at a counter again. He didn't ask what I meant. Kids that age know more than you think and say less about it. Law school took 4 years, part-time. Probate wasn't the plan. I fell into it my 2nd year, working intake at a firm that handled estate disputes, and something about it stuck. Wills, trusts. Who gets named and who doesn't, written down in language nobody gets to argue with after the fact. I passed the bar the same month Eli got his driver's permit. 2 years later, I hung my own name on a door above a dry cleaner in Cuyahoga Falls, Ray's estate and probate law. Eli helped me carry the sign in from the car. The file that would put Judith Halloran back in front of me came on a Tuesday in March, 7 years almost to the month since that Christmas dinner. My paralegal set it on my desk without ceremony, the way she set down every new intake. I almost didn't open it before lunch. Then I saw the petitioner listed under the caption, Judith M. Halloran, trustee, not a common name, not in this county. I opened it anyway. Walter's trust, signed 9 years earlier, left equal shares to my grandchildren, per stirps. Judith's petition argued Eli didn't qualify, that he'd been raised outside the family unit since his mother's death, and shouldn't share in an estate meant for grandchildren who'd remained part of the Halloran household. Eli had been to exactly one Halloran holiday since I got him. I remembered which one. The hearing room was smaller than people expect from television. A folding table on each side, no gallery, a judge who'd clearly read the file twice before we sat down. Judith's attorney went first. He talked about family unity, about a grandfather's intent, about grandchildren who'd shown up for Sunday dinners and grandchildren who hadn't. He never said Eli's name. He called him this beneficiary 4 times. Judith sat very straight, hands folded on the table, the same posture I remembered from a kitchen counter 7 years back. When it was my turn, I didn't raise my voice. I asked the court to look at Exhibit 4, the emergency guardianship order from Summit County Probate, filed the same year the trust was signed. I asked opposing counsel to confirm the notified parties listed on page 2. He read them into the record. Judith Halloran, Walter Halloran, both served. Neither had filed an objection at the time, and Judith had signed the certified mail receipt herself. It was in the file as Exhibit 4A, her signature, dated the week Eli was still sleeping with the hallway light on. So the record shows, I said, that Judith Halloran had actual, documented notice that Eli was the legal ward of his aunt, 7 years before this petition, and raised no objection then. Her attorney tried to argue that notice wasn't the same as approval. The judge asked him directly whether anything in the trust language required a grandchild to live under a Halloran roof to inherit. He didn't have an answer that held up. The room went quiet enough to hear the radiator kick on in the corner. Judith spoke once, off script, in a voice pitched low enough that the court reporter leaned in to catch it. He was never going to be raised as one of us. The judge looked at the signed receipt again before he looked at her. He denied the petition in full, citing the trust's plain language and the estate's own decade of silence on Eli's status. Notice given, received, and never once contested until a share of money was on the table. I didn't smile. I closed my folder the way I'd once closed a kitchen cabinet a long time ago and thanked the court. Judith didn't look at me on the way out. I don't think she ever will again. For a long time, I thought that would feel like losing something. It doesn't. Some family isn't reclaimed. Some of it is just outgrown, on paper, in a room with fluorescent lights, by someone who learned a long time ago exactly how to clear a plate without making a sound. Eli's 21 now. He sat in the second row for that whole hearing and didn't say a word, steady, the way I taught him without ever meaning to. If you'd been standing at that counter as a kid, would you have waited 7 years for the right room or found a faster way to say it back? If you made it this far, you already know how we do things here at Casterly Payback. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.